The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, The Benjamin Dixon Show. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. I'm just reading updates from what's happening in San Bernardino, California, and 14 people are dead. 14 people are dead. The two of the three shooters are dead. About 17 people have been shot, are injured on top of the 14 that are already confirmed dead. I don't know. I mean, what do you even say about that it happens so frequently? Here's the thing. We don't know. We don't have a description of the shooters yet. And what I've noticed is everyone is jockeying to see if the shooter is a Muslim terrorist or a domestic terrorist, as though a domestic terrorist couldn't be Muslim. And anyway, everyone is jockeying to see what is the race of the killers. People on the left have concluded that it's probably a white Christian right-wing group, and then people on the left are trying their best. I don't know what evidence they have, but they put out, on some of the blogospheres, they put out some names, some Islamic-sounding names, right? So I mean, honestly, before the show started, 2 seconds before the show, I didn't have any description. So there's no description, and all we know are that 14 people are dead. It speaks. Our country is screwed up. That's about as nice as I can say it. Our country is screwed up, not only because of the amount of violence that happens, the number of mass shootings that happen every single day, on average, every single day in the United States. Not only because of that, but because we have a competition going on who do we get to blame this week for the murders? Do we get to blame a terrorist? Because if we get to blame a terrorist, then we get to have a week full of nothing but right-wing people slamming all Muslims and vilifying anyone of Arab descent, even if they're not Muslim, vilifying an entire religion. You have an entire week of that, and it only lasts about a week, because by the next week we'll have another shooting. And if next week that shooting is a white Christian terrorist, well, then we have a week of people like me condemning the NRA, condemning all of the ease with which people can get guns, which is ridiculous. The fact that it's some people who can not get on a plane, they're on a no-fly list, have the ability to get a gun. It is ridiculous. But we have about a week of talking about that, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and nothing changes. So while we're having a competition of who can be the most outraged, who can condemn Muslims the best, and who can get off the best tweet about right-wing Christians, terrorists, the next mass shooting is being planned, whether it's by a white terrorist or white Christian terrorist or by an Islamic terrorist. The next one is being planned. And all of us politicos, including myself, we're sitting around trying to make a point, a salient point about domestic terrorism. And then people on the right are making idiotic points about vilifying the entire religion. I'm not making a false equivalency here. I'm just saying I'm tired of the people getting killed. Of people in general. I don't care if you are a white redneck from Hillbilly County, Kentucky, and you decide to go on a rampage. I don't care if you are a jihadist. I don't care if you're a Buddhist terrorist. I don't care who you are or what you are. What we should be tired of is the amount of people who get killed on an everyday basis. And if we're really tired of that, then we should also be tired of all of our gallivanting across the globe as a nation, wreaking our own type of terror for the expansion of our empire. So here we go again. And, the coin, it's like the coin is tossed in the air. Most everyone seems really confident that this is a white Christian right-wing kind of operation. And you never know. It could turn out to be, it could turn out, and it may be breaking right now as I'm speaking. So you guys who are not doing the show with me, you may have more information than I do. So what I'm getting ready to say is probably wrong, right? I'm just like CNN, right? I'm gonna speculate, and it's probably gonna be wrong, but I'm gonna say it anyway because that's what we do in media. It could very well be an ISIS cell. Not a cell because they're not that organized, but ISIS freelancers, people who want to be a part of ISIS. But we don't know. What we do know are 14 people are dead and 17 people are wounded. And 2 of the 3 assassins, terrorists, whoever they are, whatever they wanted, they're dead. I hope we at least get the 3rd one alive so that we can have more justice than just killing somebody. Because killing somebody is rather easy. I'm having a little problem with my screen here. My Google Hangouts is on the opposite screen. Don't you hate when that happens? And I'm trying to find a way to pull this over. But I'm really. So here's what we do know. So it was around 11 a.m. this morning. They said at least one shooter opened up fire in San Bernardino in the what's called the Inland Regional Center. It's a facility that serves people with developmental disabilities. That's whoever did this wanted to strike. They wanted to one up. Sandy Hook wasn't bad enough, right? Even if I can care less, it doesn't matter. This is what I don't think people realize. It doesn't matter what type of terrorism it was. It was terrorism. Now, I'm going to discuss later on the political implications of why so many right-wing Christian conservative white people don't want to consider domestic terrorism as terrorism, right? We'll discuss that. That is a rich conversation that needs to be had. A lot of implications. But right now, I don't care. What I do know is that they picked this facility because if you think about it, it's one of the types of facilities that we have not. They have upped the ante, and then attacking children was not enough. They wanted to attack the developmentally disabled. 14 people killed, 17 wounded. They have 3 assailants, 2 who are now dead. There was a car chase. 2 of the suspects were killed. One of the suspects that were killed was a male. The other was a female. There was no description given. I'll refresh this page in a minute and see if there's a new description. FBI has taken a role, and that's it. That's what we have. And then in the political sphere, the blogosphere, the Twitter sphere, that bubble, all anyone is concerned about is what's the race of the people. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand, particularly Black people or brown people, Arab people of Arab descent, people Muslims. I understand them waiting with tiptoed anticipation in fear, wondering if the person who did this was Black, or was this person a Muslim, or was this person, whatever, because we have a very efficient machine geared towards vilifying an entire race and an entire religion based off the actions of 1 or 2 people. And then we have an entire machine that's really good at isolating an event if it's a white person. If it's a white person, it's always mentally deranged, lone shooter, loner, isolated, a good guy going bad. The CNN even wrote this is the perfect just. Unfortunately, we have this juxtaposition, but it's a perfect juxtaposition. Ann O'Neill from CNN, the same woman who described Freddie Gray as the son of a heroin addict, illiterate woman, she wrote an article about how does the perfect kid go wrong, discussing the Aurora, Colorado shootings. So you have the perfect juxtaposition of how we treat white terrorists compared. Okay, I'm getting updates compared to how we treat everybody else. Getting updates as we're discussing it, that the FBI just released that one of the suspects is a U.S. citizen. That's been confirmed. So I'll give you these updates as they come in. But you have that juxtaposition. And so it's like everyone is waiting. How is this narrative? Because what's more important than anything else is the narrative that we weave. But here's the thing about it. The narratives that we weave are meaningless. It's really only good for bragging rights. It's really only good for poking somebody else in the eye and saying, see what I told you? All of them, those Muslims are all evil. Or saying, see what I told you? It's not just it's domestic terrorism that we should fear, which it is. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not making a false equivalency. What I'm saying is none of our words do anything. No matter how many examples we get, can we all agree that it's gun violence, that it is violence, that people are dying, and we're doing nothing, zilch, nada. Not one law has changed. And I'm thinking, I'm going through my catalog in my brain right now. I don't know of one law that has changed since Sandy Hook. So however you want to play it, right? If these are terrorists that did this, they're terrorists who obtained guns in the United States. So it is still a gun problem. And the ease with which people can gain access. Now, maybe if this was an ISIS, if these were terrorists and they were able to get guns, and hang on, let me correct myself, because I just fell into the same exact trope that they have conditioned us to all speak of. It doesn't matter what race or religion, these bastards were terrorists. If they were Islamic terrorists, or if they were Christian right-wing Southern good old boy terrorists, it doesn't matter. They got access to guns. Without guns, they're a bunch of people with bats. They're not going to kill 14 people before they get killed. With guns, 3 people can murder 14. So at what point do we stop pointing fingers? And I already know the answer. I have to vent this, because it's like I get tired of the same exact tweets going out every single time something like this happens. The same exact statements going out the same every time this happens. Then the same competition for who is to blame, who are the bad guys for this news cycle. I get tired of it because absolutely nothing. It's the perfect combination. What does it take? I just had 3 sentences and didn't finish any of them. It's the perfect combination of confluence of idiocy that keeps us from getting anything done. Let me finish one complete thought. There you go. The fact it's like we're pointing at each other all the while people are dying every day. And there's nothing that we can say. I've already accepted this. There is absolutely nothing that we can say that's going to change the minds of gun nuts, people who worship guns more than they worship human life. Nothing. There's nothing. So why expend all of that energy trying to poke them in the eye and say, see, you gun nuts, we told you you're the problem. Yes, they are the problem, but poking them in the eye is not the solution. And the Solomon podcast, he just said, and this is true, and this is what I was just thinking, if they were terrorists, if they were brown-skinned terrorists, see how easy it is to fall into that trope. We are conditioned. Every single one of us are conditioned. If they were brown-skinned terrorists, particularly of the Muslim persuasion, I still don't think, I think their commitment to guns is so solid that they will not shift or change not one law, even if it was brown skin Muslim persuasion terrorist, because their worship of guns is absolute. All lives matter, Todd Hamlet said, but all guns matter more. This is the truth. That's where we are. So I caught myself. I didn't want to get into the political fray of look, this is a right-wing terrorism, because one, I don't know that it's right-wing terrorism because I haven't had a single description yet, which generally means when you don't get a description, that usually means it's probably a white guy, either an old white guy or a young white guy. That really how it plays out, because if it was a brown-skinned Muslim persuaded terrorist, we would know that. We would have a terror alert right now. We would have, Homeland Security mobilizing. And I have a clip, if I can get my screen. Somebody at the, I know there's a way that I click on it and then do tab right or something to get my screen back over. But there's a video of I don't know what position he was, but there was the press conference where the police officer in charge was saying that this is not terrorism, of what you usually would consider to be terrorism. Of course not. It's never terrorism if it's not a person of Muslim descent. I'm transitioning into another conversation here. Enough with, I am tired of the arguments. I am tired of the finger pointing. I'm tired of us fighting from the left and from the right and nothing happening. But since nothing is going to happen, then I'll just keep moving on and talk about the next part, which is it's never terrorism if they are not Muslim. If you notice, we have the hardest time considering something to be a terroristic action if they were not Muslim or of Arab descent. I mean, they could be an Arab Christian and they'll still consider him to be a Muslim. I mean, that's the whole different conversation. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Mr. Dixon, this is Granville from the Bronx.
Hey, man, how's it going today?
Another mass shooting in less than a week.
Exactly.
When are we going to admit that we have a homegrown terrorist in this country since the 1800s?
That's the problem. That's the problem. And here's the thing. If we ever admitted that this was terrorism, that there is such a thing as white Christian terrorism, then I believe they're afraid of doing that, because then we will start looking at not only the terrorism here, but the terrorism that we enact abroad. Because you can't tell me that when we're dropping bombs on weddings, on hospitals, even if it's by, I don't care, accident or not, we're doing this from the eyes of the people who are being killed over there. This is U.S. terrorism. So we can never admit that we have white Christian American terrorism, because that would give credence to the idea that we are committing acts of terror all over this world. I'm sorry, you called in to say something, man. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I mean, you're absolutely right, but other people of color, I'm not going to use color. That's just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The black community knows about terrorism too much. Everybody else. Just because you want to deny something, that's a sociopath. You have all the evidence pointed to you, and you still saying, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We knew this guy ethnicity. What say it on the news?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We all knew.
That's the part about it. Once they didn't say this was right wing, once they didn't say that this was Islamic terrorist, we knew immediately that it was a white guy. It was now I'm hedging. I like to hedge my bets. Now it could turn out to be something different, but it has always been my experience that when they don't identify the ethnicity of the criminal, then it's generally not a black person or a brown person. I'll just put it like that.
Well, the only question I have, was this person law enforcement or military?
With honesty, that's a good point. But J-Mo, you were shaking your head in agreement.
Okay, give me that question one more time. I had a little problem with my audio here.
I'm wondering if this person was law enforcement or military, because the way they describe how they hit him was too strategic. It was supposedly three members. Yeah, three people in military garb, black armor, actually. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. We'll know in a minute. I'm going to keep refreshing my page, Granville, and I'll find out for you. And if you guys find out, make sure you let me know in the chat room. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dixon. Keep on doing a great job.
Thanks, man. We'll do. Caller 347, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Pedro.
Pedro.
How's it going?
It's like Granville said, man, it's another day, just another day in America.
Yeah, I'm not going to do this all the time because I'm sure this is going to happen again and again. But I want to emphasize my point not out of vindication, but because it's just a sad reality that we have to push into the minds of people, and hopefully like the rest of your audience is as rational and as smart as you are to get this. As soon, like within hours of hearing about this shooting in San Bernardino, immediately I saw two things, and this is anecdotal. Obviously, this isn't like indicative of everyone. But first was, we might have a name, Farouk Saeed, therefore not a white guy, therefore not all white people or not all white right wingers or whatever. Yeah, like there was an immediate defense of their own kind rather than, oh shit, 14 people died. I'm sorry for cursing. Oh crap, 14 people died. Right. Right. Or there was a shooting of 24 plus people. Secondly, I saw something on my Facebook feed that said, okay, so we're not supposed to indict all Muslims based on the act of a few Muslims. Can we do that for the 80 million gun owners in America? The point I'm making is people, as I said before, people would rather, with wagering the lives of others, they would rather win an argument than try to help our own kind. Exactly. The most patriotic thing you could do is support your own kind, and people would rather say, to hell with that, I want to look right in this argument. I'm afraid to lose, therefore, I'm sorry, to hell with the people that died, to hell with the people whose families have been shattered. Look, a possible schism in your argument. Right. Ha, 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 ha.
Pedro, I'm gonna owe you a check one of these days because I'm gonna take that angle, because that you said it precisely. As that's what frustrated me all this afternoon was the fact that everyone is jockeying to defend their argument, so that there, like you said, that there would never be a blip, what was your a chasm? Is that what you said? In the argument,
I said schism, but it could be any word.
A schism in the argument, so they can never have a moment where they have to actually consider that they were wrong, and that's what it is. It's like people, we're all childish. We are all childish. Now, this happens. I don't want to make a false equivalency here, but because I'm always analyzing stuff, I do see this happening on the left. I just never see it to the absurdity that I see it coming from the right in every situation. It is always about protect their argument, even when we're wrong, even when it costs other people's lives, even when no matter what, always defend your argument so that you will not lose a damn argument. And what did you say?
It's not even.
What did you say? If your patriotism only goes so far as you winning an argument, then you're not a patriot at all.
Yeah, exactly. These are people that pretend to be American, Second Amendment, founding fathers, and then look, you can't even look past the tragedy of a killing of several dozen people, because you're not even being defensive. You're being offensive in the sense that you're waiting for something to happen to make
Right.
the other side look wrong for debate ammunition. Excuse the gun lingo.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what, and this is what pissed me off so much with the Planned Parenthood shooting, was that instead of them saying, instead of the Republicans saying this is a tragedy and just leave it at that, because that's what it was. You didn't have to say anything else. Instead of doing that, they waited until they could find an angle, a political angle to go on the offense. They will never allow themselves to be just sincere about the pain that's happening in America. It has to be politicized. It has to be not only politicized in the sense of defense, but like you said, offensive. They turned this story from Planned Parenthood into a leftist transgender activist because of a clerical error of the supervisor of elections. Who the supervisor of election has come out and said this was a clerical error, but they've made the entire narrative so that they never have to consider for a moment that somebody who holds the same ideology as they did or as they do did something wrong. That what did the last caller say? That's sociopath. They are sociopathic. That is a sickness, and that is what conservatism has become. Go ahead, Pedro.
Just to leave on this note, I don't have the right answer or even an answer, but if we keep going like this, where a lot of people have said, if we just accept this as normalcy, if we just accept this as everyday American life, which it pretty much for the past year has, because there have been more mass shootings than there have been days in this year.
Right.
Unless we do something, and again, I don't know what, I'm not insinuating anything, but unless we do something to change the way we look at gun violence, we look at how we see and argue with other people, how we reconcile differences, then this is just going to keep happening. This insanity is just going to keep spiraling, and we just somehow, some way, preferably through education and logic and common sense, we can find our way out. Then I keep fighting the good fight. I really appreciate it.
Definitely will, man. Thanks so much for the call and that insight. That was actually a really, really, really good point, Pedro. That was. I couldn't have put it better, so I'm actually just going to steal what you said, and I'll give you credit. But my seat just collapsed. But that's what it is. It's because, and a couple of people in the chat room have some really good points, right? They have some good observations here. Davin, I like what you said, Davin. Let me scroll back up. You said it's not only that, but it's also what did you say, Davin? It was a good point. It keeps order within their party. It keeps order, and it prevents public panic and inclusion. You're absolutely right, Davin. It keeps order, and it's totalitarianism. I'm going to be honest with you. It's absolutism. It is absolutism. It's totalitarianism, saying that every aspect of your thinking must conform to this. Now, here's the thing. The art of false equivalencies is one of the most powerful propagandistic tools that you will ever run into, in the sense that they are telling all of their minions, all of the people who buy into the conservative ideology, they are telling their people that it's actually progressives and liberals who are totalitarian, and that it's our way or the highway, and that you have to be absolutist. So it creates a perfectly sealed bubble of propaganda where they are literally propagandized drones who can never tolerate one idea that challenges their argument or their ideology. Simultaneously, they are being told that everyone else is wrong, and everyone else is actually the victim of propaganda, and that everyone else is buying into the liberal media, that if it's something that it can't be true because it's coming from the liberal media. If it contradicts our conservative argument, then it's coming from the liberal media, and it's just ridiculous. This is the psychopathy. This is the delusions that they live under, and it extends directly into the shooting today, where they would rather fight about protecting their guns, protecting, not all conservatives are bad, not all gun owners are bad, than to take 1 minute to consider the lives that were lost. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, this is Hank from Chicago. So
Hey.
I just wanted to
Go ahead.
say one more thing that just really gets on my nerves when these things happen, you know. So it's just that you always hear people, you know, saying, you know, pray for these people, and you know that's great, but it's just that that's the only thing people do. They just think that praying is gonna fix
Change
it,
anything.
you know.
Yeah.
It's which it just won't. Why do people pray to their gods to fix this when, you know, it's not spirituality, which is, you know, the issue or the problem. It's the legislation and our own stubbornness to act. You know, prayer by itself, it doesn't do anything when the overarching flaws are in the system that we have set up, you know. That it permits these tragedies to happen.
I tell you why they say that. Go ahead before I start running my mouth.
And so I don't know how it doesn't just have to be religion. It's just people just want to have something to fall back on, just to, you know, stick their head in the sand and just say, you know, I've done my part. You know, prayer is great, but it doesn't mean anything when you don't, you know, follow it up by action.
Exactly.
And how is God supposed to come down and change the laws in our textbooks? You know, how is he supposed to
if
rewrite anything?
How's he going to do it if we are not the people to actually go out and do it? Right? God is not, you know, whether you believe in God or not, it's absolutely ridiculous and absurd to think that a hand is going to come from heaven and change our laws, right? That's not going to happen. Hank, thanks so much for the call, man. I'll answer the rest of it off the air. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I wrote an article about after South Carolina. And I said, save your prayers if you're not going to do something about racism, because that was the context of the shooting in South Carolina. But it can be applied across the board. Save your prayers. We don't need your prayers. We need your action. But here's the trick. Prayer, saying that we're going to pray, gives this illusion that you're concerned. It conveys a fake sincerity and allows you to do nothing. Prayer is the ultimate tool of abdicating your responsibilities, because you're turning it over to a real or an imagined, whatever you want, I don't care what you believe. It turns it over to someone else to take care of something that you are fully capable of doing yourself. We do not need God to fix our gun laws. We do not need God to trim down the violence in our communities. We don't need God to get police under control. We don't need God to keep mayors from covering up the assassination of a 17-year-old boy. We don't need prayers to fix these man-made problems. Save your prayers if you're not going to do something. But they know, this is the thing about it. What I just said is not an education for them. They know this. And so they actively use the excuse of prayer as a means of doing nothing. The best way to get away with doing nothing while making it seem like you really care is to say, you're in my prayers. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Yo, it's Will from New York, and I haven't drank in like 2 days, so I'm not going to call you back in an hour rambling.
No problem, Will. Thanks for the call, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so no, I was just going to piggyback Hank's point, but then you did so very eloquently. And to take what you said maybe even a step further, if you believe in a God, that's great. I have no issue with people that have religion, believe in God, believe that prayer works. If you believe in even just the power of positive thought,
right,
positive energy,
right,
great. That's fantastic. But after you click enter on your social media circle jerk and abdicate yourself of that responsibility, do you actually even pray? Or do you just go, all right, let's see what's on my Bejeweled right now. Do I have any live stuff? I mean, I don't think a lot of people even give a shit. I just think they want that ego masturbation that they get from the people that follow them or are friends with them anymore.
Yeah. So, wow, Will,
but
thanks.
That's even worse.
Yeah, no, so. that's even right. Worse. And actually, you know, thanks for the call, Will. Appreciate it. Wow. Hey, you callers are on point tonight, man. Every single call has been illuminating for me. So I want to give all of you an applause, because that was a great point. How many of these people actually saying that we're going to pray for you actually even get down on their knees to pray or to have positive thoughts in that direction? The way you know that they're not praying, and the way you know that they're not conveying positive thoughts or positive vibrations or anything else, is because as soon as they get done saying we're going to pray, they start defending their guns. So you cannot be conveying positive thoughts, and you cannot be sincere in your prayer. If you were sincere from a religious perspective, if you're sincere in your prayer, you cannot turn and pivot to defending guns with your bitter, acrimonious arguments. It doesn't work like, it doesn't work like that.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
So you know that they're not even getting on their knees. They're not sending a positive thought. They're saying that because that is what is expected. That is the massive, oh God. The problem with knowing as much about religion as I do is that I know as much about religion as I do. And I do know that that is one of the most powerful propagandistic tools, because it gives you a cover, and everybody is like, oh man, Mike Huckabee said he's praying. He's such a good Christian. Mike Huckabee hasn't said a damn prayer for anybody, because he's following up with tweets about the NRA and defending the Second Amendment. You're more concerned about defending the Second Amendment that you can't even take 30 minutes to grieve and mourn and have a respite on your political games. They're not even praying. In other news, and guys, you can call in 857-600-0518. We'll discuss San Bernardino as much as you want. I know a lot of people's hearts are heavy, and I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the guy to take care. You come call in, express your whatever you're feeling. I'm the one who's got to give the political analysis about it, because here's the thing: is that if we allow it to keep going and we don't nip it, if we don't kill it, not just nip it in the bud, we have to massacre. It's a horrible word to use right now today. I'm gonna boo myself. That was a horrible word choice. But if we don't, well, I guess my boo doesn't work, so fine. If we don't massacre this propaganda that paralyzes our nation, then we are in so much more trouble, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Simultaneously, that we have presidential candidates. I'm getting live updates. It said there's a possible explosive found on the scene. Simultaneously, we have presidential candidates who are out across the nation stirring up the very worst in us. Stirring up the type of, put it like this, if we had a presidential candidate who elicited the support, either intentionally or unintentionally, but this particular candidate had the support of militant Islamists, they would find a way to shut his candidacy down. But right now, today, we have a presidential candidate who has mobilized white supremacist groups, whether he intended to or not. His rhetoric, his position, his demeanor, his everything about him, Donald Trump, has breathed new life into the white supremacist groups of the United States of America, and they are out in force. I got a tweet from a friend of mine who works for a news outlet, showing pictures of people with the Confederate flag putting their fist up. I mean, at a Donald Trump rally today, not last week, not 2 weeks ago, today, even after the news of the shooting. They have no, don't tell me you care and you're going to pray about something when everything about you is bringing out this type of hatred and vitriol. It does not go together. It doesn't work like that. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I love your show.
Thank you.
And I'm in Missouri, and I've got a little different perspective on a lot of these. It looks like false flags to me. And, I've been hearing for 25 years about an elaborate system by elites to, use all these terrorist events. We give up our rights. And to me, they're using these race divisions. They're using, religious divisions. Although I do know from being brought up heavily in the right-wing fundamentalist Assemblies of God as a pastor's child, no less, that they do have very radical, ideas and probably could be easily recruited to do crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
But we've always heard that there was this, elaborate plan to, minimize and crumble our society. I do think we've seen that unfold, and I do think the people are being manipulated heavily by what's happening. I do think we can overcome it. I believe this is the hard way of, the Taoists, the easy way, the soft way, or the hard way. It goes in karate like that. I think they're using the hard way on us. And I think our hard way needs to be not of these racial wars they're trying to put on us, these religious wars they're trying to put on us. Although I do condone seeking out where this stuff's coming from. I believe there are black ops, some shadow governments, some bad corporations funding some of these radical groups that would drink, strychnine in church and handle snakes, and they exist. We all know it.
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in there.
Sure.
All right. The reason I wanted to let you discuss it, one, is because you like my show, and I was going to give you some space to go with it. But two, I'm glad you bring this up, because let's say that this that there is a conspiracy for whatever. Let's just go down the conspiracy, the train of thought, right? This comes up after every single shooting, after every single action, after everything that happens. There's always a group of people who try to explain it as being a part of a bigger, broader conspiracy. My thing is this: to what end? To what end? What have they accomplished? Because if they have a huge overarching conspiracy to get our rights, they haven't gotten them. And they've been trying for a long time, according to these groups. If they're trying to start a race war, they haven't gotten one. We're just actually having a very robust conversation in the public square. So to me, it's like it's always easy to make people think that something is a part of a bigger narrative, when in actuality, they're people who are really dead. And I think that's the part that I want to focus on the most, is that I hear people always saying, like, that Paris, even what happened in Paris, was a conspiracy. No, it was actually a false flag, is what they say. And I'm like, the people are actually dead. Now, wherever this real source came from, we need to get them. But to try to explain everything away as a false flag or as a conspiracy, are there false flags? Yes, historically we have seen and shown where things have been done. And I shouldn't have even started this, because now I want to get it right. I believe it was a ship that the U.S. sank right off the coast of Cuba because we wanted to go to war. I believe it was around in the 1920s. But we've done those things. But what I'm saying now is we expend so much energy on the internet and with all the conspiracy channels trying to explain a false flag, when in reality, we haven't seen any fruits of this conspiracy. It's like people saying Jesus is going to come back. They've been saying that for, saying that for 100 years. Listen, thanks so much for your call. I want to grab the next caller. I just missed you, caller who just called in, 857-600-0518. But I wanted to give her a chance to talk, because I hear this all the time. I hear it and I see it all the time, and it's this is what happens when everyone gets the access to do what I'm doing, right? And then they get more money and then they do it bigger. This is the Alex Jones kind of world that we live in, where everything is a false flag. Nothing is what it seems. Everything is a part of a bigger conspiracy. They're always out to take your guns. They're out to take your rights. They just want to start a race war. But you'll notice that a lot of these conspiracy theorists, actually, I'm going to leave that alone. I'll unpack that later. But I would say, don't expend your energy buying into these conspiracy theory narratives, because people are dead. Real people are dead. Everybody is not a, what's that meme that's going around where they say this girl is a trauma actor? You know, they want to say that the people who were shot live on TV by the deranged black man, that they are actually alive and they were just drama actors, right? Trauma actors. Let's not expend too much energy on that. But because I know that's out there so much, I wanted to at least address it once on my show, is that I don't do conspiracies. I take things for what I see, for myself. I'll investigate it myself. If there is ever a conspiracy that we need to dig into and unpack, we will. But right now, this is pretty simple and straightforward. When the report comes out, it's going to be some type of terrorism, whether it's white terrorism, black terrorism, Muslim terrorism, which is not a color or race, but you understand what I'm saying. It's some type of terrorism. And because we have people who are able to get access to guns, look at that. I will say this, and I feel like I'm all over the place, but I have to say this. If it is a false flag, then the purpose of the false flag, according to conspiracy theorists, is so that they could get our rights and our guns. Therefore, protect our rights and our guns. The logic behind conspiracy theories is like a religion. It does for people who enjoy conspiracy theories what church does for people who enjoy church. It feeds you something that you can latch onto and believe that there's something bigger out there, all the while keeping you from attacking the real problem: access to guns. They make you believe they're coming for your rights. They're coming to seize your guns. They're coming to take it away because this is a false flag. This is just an operation by the Barack Obama administration to get your guns. This is a false flag. I have the evidence here. Here are the trauma actors. What are they protecting in that entire equation? What's the only thing being protected? The guns. Conspiracy theories, that's the church of the NRA. You're serving the NRA. That's the pastor of your church, is the NRA. All right, moving on. But I want to address that because I hear that all of the time, All right. What's in my title? San Bernardino, Dothan. Oh God, I got to talk about Dothan, Alabama, and I'm almost out of time. If you want to call in, still call in 857-600-0518, and we'll discuss pretty much anything related to San Bernardino. Dothan, Alabama. I'm going to do a lot more on this, but because of what happened in the news today, I had it got pushed. There are decades of white police officers affiliated with white hate groups, planting evidence, drugs and guns on black citizens. Many of those citizens have had their entire lives ruined because they've been found guilty, put in jail, got out of jail, and still have felonies following them. This is how long it's been going on. And there is a website called Henry County Report. Henry County Report has documented meticulously conversations showing that this was not a one-time event and that this goes up the chain of command in Dothan, Alabama. I know Dothan, Alabama well. I had family living there for some time, and I've went back and forth and visited it. It's a small town. It's a small town that's starting to grow. It had some companies come in, and so it's starting to boom. And you think about the implications of this, these officers are still on the force. These officers have actually gotten promotion. One of the hang on, let me see. So you have, I'm trying to see, one of them got a promotion to the State Assistant Director of the Homeland Security. This is how far one of these officers who has been implicated in this cover-up, decades worth of cover-ups, he has been promoted over the years to the state's Assistant Director of Homeland Security, while the people they have planted evidence on are either in jail or have served their time and still have a felony following them. I'm going to give you guys the link so that you can go and dig into it for yourself. If you're listening on Spreaker, just Google Henry County Report, Dothan, Alabama, and see it for yourself. Look at the amount of cover-up, and then look at the positions that these, you want to talk about a conspiracy. There you go. Right there. Documented. It's right there. Police officers, a part of a Confederate white hate group, systematically framing black men over the last few decades. Those men, many of which are still in jail, and the officers involved are now in higher positions of authority in the entire state. All right. One last thing I want to go with. I'm going to deal with that in much more in depth tomorrow. I just wanted to mention it. Rham Emanuel, Chicago. Rham Emanuel has said he's not going to resign. He also says that, yes, we made some mistakes. He said, but he is opposed to the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office coming into Chicago to investigate the shooting of Laquan McDonald. I wonder why. Rham Emanuel, Democrat, Rham Emanuel, establishment Democrat, Rham Emanuel would not want the FBI to come in and look at this entire case, 407 days, now 408 days of cover-up. The cover-up began on day one. Officers went in and deleted video from Burger King. The cover-up continued as the video from the dash cam came out. City Hall made sure that it did not get out. To make sure that they pacify the family, apparently Rham Emanuel approved a $5 million settlement without even seeing the video himself. Allegedly, without seeing it himself. I don't believe anything he says at this point. All the way, an entire year later, a judge had to order this tape released. And then all of a sudden, everyone is concerned. Everyone thinks that this is a travesty. Everyone thinks this is a crime. Police officers arrested. The chief of police, the superintendent resigns. But Rham Emanuel, he's safe. He's okay. Nobody's going to bother with him. I want to play a clip of this young man who was on CNN. I'm going to let him say it because he said it. He said it great. I'm going to let his name is Jamal Green, and he was on CNN with Don Lemon. As much as I don't like Don Lemon, this guest was fabulous. Listen in.
You think the mayor should step down?
Definitely. You gotta look at it like this. This is the mayor's city. He is the CEO. If this is a corporation, he would be fired. You know, you mean to tell me that the mayor, who's the CEO, the city council, who will be the board of directors, approved a $5 million settlement during the re-election campaign and not even seen the video? That does not say that we were wrong. That says that we have to keep in power. If this is a corporation, stockholders would have Rham Emanuel's head for the job that he has been doing. And as residents of the city of Chicago, we are the stockholders. So we definitely are calling for new leadership and accountability. And that does not start or that does not begin and end with a superintendent of police or a beat cop. It starts with the mayor, who is desperate to keep in power, and the city council who's doing his bidding to also stay in power. So definitely.
Wow. Y'all look at this young man here. Listen, let me tell you something. I know good speakers. I know good arguments, and I knew great presentation. Not only is he carrying a good message, and he's absolutely 100% right. This boy is special. This young man is special. I'm going to applaud him again. I'm going to reach out to see if I can get him on my show, because he delivered that analogy with so not only confidently but smooth, right? He was just cool with it, right? I'm sorry, I'm doing an analysis of his speech. Forgive me, but I love great speakers. He's a great speaker, and his message is clear. If this was a corporation, Rham Emanuel would be out. Truth of the matter is, Rham Emanuel should never have gotten back in, but the people of Chicago were apathetic and did not get involved as much as they should have. Is there not a cause? Well, now there is, right? There was a cause then, but they weren't awakened. They weren't woke, as people like to say online, right? They were asleep. They were asleep behind the wheels, and they allowed one of the biggest problems in Chicago. Really is the office of the mayor. It didn't begin with Rham Emanuel, but Rham Emanuel is definitely fulfilling the legacy of that office, the abuse of power, the cover-ups, the mistreatment of marginalized groups. Rham Emanuel is mastering that office. He's doing a hell of a job of keeping the status quo going. And what this young man is saying is that this is not acceptable, because if this was a corporation, he would be gone. Granted, he should never have been back in there. But at this point, I think anyone who is defending Rham Emanuel, even with quiet acquiescence, just tacitly defending him by not being active. If you have a congressman, let's start on the city level. If you have an alderman, if you have a local representative, a state representative, if you have your U.S. representative, I don't care what political affiliation they are. If they are quiet on this issue and they are not demanding Rham Emanuel gone, then they are part of the problem, and they need to be gone too. We absolutely must clean house. We must hold people who want our votes accountable. And Emanuel, along with the rest of the Democratic Party, has benefited from the African-American vote. They have benefited from the progressive vote for a very long time, and we must hold them accountable. I am going to be harder on my ally, my ostensible ally, than I would be on I have greater expectations of someone who calls themselves my ally than I do of someone I know doesn't give a damn about me. And so politically, from a progressive perspective, from an African-American perspective, from a human perspective, slimy, weaselly, grimy little pieces of shit like Rham Emanuel need to be out of office. And you need to think better and do better when we're electing people, and not just take somebody because they've been blessed and ordained by the Democratic Party of the United States of America. Stop allowing the Democrats to shove people down our throats just because they have a D behind their name. And then they come behind and do more damage to us than a Republican could ever do. Because there's no way, and I'm going to say this again, there is no way in hell that a Republican mayor would be in office right now if he covered up the shooting of an African-American kid. We would have tore that entire city up. But because there's a Democrat in office, all of a sudden we're wearing soft gloves. No, not at all. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You hold your allies to a higher standard than your enemy. That's not how.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
We must have a greater expectation from all the way down from Barack Obama down to your local alderman. If they have ever benefited from your vote, then they better damn well be serving you, especially in times like this. And if they cannot stand up to Rham Emanuel on an issue like this, then of course they're not going to stand up to Rham Emanuel on an issue of closing down schools, on the issue of shutting down programs that are intricate to the success of it, to redeveloping the inner city. Of course they're not going to stand up to him when it comes to how do we eradicate gang violence on the South Side? Do we even pay attention to the violence, or do we just allow it to go? Do we keep making deals with the leaders of these organizations, these organized crime syndicates? Of course, they will never stand up to him in terms of the people that he hires and the type of the quality of leadership that he brings. If they won't stand up to him on the difficult things, then they're sure as hell not going to stand up to him on the easy things. They're just going to let it slide. Because like this young man said, they're interested in maintaining power. And if they challenge a strong mayor, which is the system that Chicago has, which is part of the problem, if they challenge a strong mayor, then they feel like they will lose access to their power. And if all you're concerned with is your political power, then you are just as much the problem as any Republican. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is more detrimental to the United States of America right now than any Republican, because she is not allowing the United States to have a fair option for one of the major parties, for one of the two major parties in our system. She is controlling that and manipulating that, and we're just sitting back allowing her to do it because no one wants to lose access to the power that she holds. So she has become a problem. Rham Emanuel has become a part of the problem. And if they're not speaking out about it, Jesse Jackson, you're a part of the problem. Al Sharpton, if you're not speaking out against Rham Emanuel, you're a part of the problem. Barack Obama, if you're not speaking out and demanding, I don't care if you do it publicly because I know the game, but behind the scenes, you need to be telling Rham Emanuel to resign. Because I believe that progressives and blacks and black progressives, I believe that people from the progressives that align with Feel the Burn, I believe that Black Lives Matter. I think everyone who is seeing that the Democratic Party has been taking advantage of us to the extreme. I just believe that we have enough political capital to shut it down and make them realize that all we have to do is, well, you can finish the sentence for yourself. But we control the reins of power, and they do not have power without us. So if our allies are doing us this dirty, then maybe they don't need to be our ally. And no, everyone is saying, well, Ben, what about the Republicans? You know, they're worse. A Republican did not cover up the shooting of Laquan McDonald. Rham Emanuel did, a Democrat, one of the top Democrats, would have been Speaker of the House had he not gone to be Chief of Staff for the President of the United States. That wasn't a Republican. That was a Democrat. Now, see, and now let me give you this. This is my last little nugget for the night because I need to go to bed. I'm on 3 hours of sleep. This is my last nugget of the night. That, my friends, is the difference between progressive ideologies and conservative ideologies. We will hold our leaders accountable. We must hold our leaders accountable. We must recognize when our party has been doing things detrimental to us and detrimental to the United States and detrimental to the world. We do not stand in solidarity with people who do damage to us just for the sake of winning an argument, just for the sake of having bragging rights. It's not, our values are more important than our bragging rights. Our values are more important than defending the status quo. And so we start by getting Rham Emanuel. Chicago, everybody in Chicago, we're standing with you. Shut that city down until Rham Emanuel resigns. If for no other reason, but to make it clear to every person who wants the vote of a progressive or African American or whatever type, if you want our vote, you are going to do what's in the best interest for us and not your political position of authority. Folks, it's been real. I got to get out of here.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Stay there, folks.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Folks, I want you to stay there for a second. I want to thank Quantum Samurai. Quantum Samurai, this is for you, man. Listen, thanks for the name. I believe it was you. I'm almost 100% sure it was you. You're the one who said that we are the Progressive Army, and we are the Progressive Army, and we're going to take back what's due ours. We are going to be progressive, and we're going to demand that everyone else, whoever wants our vote, is progressive as well. So I want to play this opener for you again so you guys can hear the Progressive Army.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You are now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
You guys have a good night.